Well, the official podcast of the world-famous Comedy Cellar, available wherever you get your podcasts. Dan Naturman here, along with Noam Dworman, the owner of the Comedy Cellar. Hello, Noam.
Hello, Daniel.
Periel Aschenbrand sits at the table with us. And we have Andrew Weinreich, serial entrepreneur, angel investor, and the inventor of social media, believe it or not. He is here with us in studio. Thank you, Andrew, for coming with us.
Thanks for
coming to us. By the way, Andrew and I went to the same undergraduate school, University of Pennsylvania. We didn't know each other. We also went to Fordham Law together. And we did know each other, but he doesn't seem to remember me.
I don't. I don't know.
We weren't really friends at the time.
How could you forget Mr. Naturman?
But I have vague. I remember the only thing I remember about you is I think you dated a girl named Stacy with red hair. I know her last name, but I won't say it. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you didn't have red hair.
Like curly, frizzy hair.
Yeah.
It was red, was it not?
No, I think it was brown.
Well, I remember it as red, but in either case,
That's a funny thing to remember.
yeah, that is odd. But yeah, we were there together, and neither of us pursued law.
Were you friends with her?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he was friends with her. I haven't seen her.
What'd she say about him?
I don't recall her saying one way or the other.
Oh, not memorable, I guess.
But anyway, and then he went on to. Did you do any law at all?
2 years. I actually tried to start a business out of law school, which did not work. And then I went in-house advisor. I was a professional dotter. It was the largest antitrust suit, I think, in history at that time. And Pfizer was being charged with, I think it was price fixing with the other large pharmaceutical companies, and they hired an army of lawyers. And my job was I was given red dots, yellow dots, and green dots, and we were to, for the purpose of overwhelming the other side with discovery, my job was to go into warehouses and dot files, either red, yellow, or green. So I did that for a year.
How did that overwhelm the discovery?
They had so many materials were turned over that it was difficult for the other side to discern what was relevant and what was not.
But what were the red?
I think the better question is, why did I need to go to law school for 3 years?
No, but I'm curious about this.
Yellow,
So
and
you want to
green
overwhelm
dots.
them with materials. So why wouldn't you put a red dot on everything so they have to try to wade through it all?
No, the red dots were not relevant. The yellow dots required a lawyer with more experience than me, and the green dots were turned over.
Ah.
And the green dots represented, you can almost imagine it like an Indiana Jones style warehouse of material that was turned over. That's what you get at the end of 3 years of Fordham Law School.
And were they fixing prices?
I have no idea.
You sound like Dershowitz when you ask him about OJ. Oh, I have no idea.
It's funny that's what comes to mind from a professional daughter. And then I was general counsel of a technology company. There was actually a PC clone manufacturer in New York. And they were paying so little, no one else was willing to take the job as general counsel. Otherwise, no one gets a job as general counsel a couple years out of law school. And I took that, and a year in, I decided to leave and start my own company.
And they're being sued for patent infringement, or
who's being sued?
Why does a PC clone company need a general counsel?
A PC.
Did you say PC clone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a PC clone, like Dell was a PC clone company. Anyone that was not
it was a
IBM.
big major one like that? You said they're paying so little. I thought it was a small.
No, it was a small one.
Yeah.
I think you're just confusing what the word clone means. Like
I know what clone means.
So anyone who was assembling computers, like a chassis and a hard drive, but that was not.
Did he talk down to you people in
Oh, no.
No, I know very well what PC clone, but usually a small. I mean, I deal
So
with PC clone.
what would the patent? What would the?
What I'm saying is that
why
a
would there
PC
be a
clone
patent
company usually would hire, like if it's a small company, they just hire a lawyer when they actually have some legal issues. Like it's not the kind of people that are sued all the time.
No. But
Yeah.
you hire a lawyer also for corporate issues,
Yeah.
not just for litigation.
Right.
So you have contracts, and you need an in-house lawyer. And
So it couldn't be that small. It has to be pretty.
It was significant enough to do a small listing on a small public listing, and so I left right before the public listing.
But let's
Like
get-
I have a company with 5. I don't have general counsel. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, let's get to the good stuff.
Maybe
The company you started right after being a general counsel was 6 Degrees.
So the internet was taking off, and
This was 99?
no,
No, sorry. This would have been 95. No, 95. We graduated.
no, we
I graduated 95.
Yeah, this was 95, 96.
Okay.
And the internet was taking off, and I mentioned before, I'd been trying to start a business, instead of practicing law while I was in law school. And so I put together a group in the evenings that met for the purpose of coming up with an idea that we could do on the internet. And so we had, 2 software engineers and someone in marketing, someone in biz dev, and myself, with this agreement that we'd all generate ideas, and we had a framework for how we would come up with ideas. And I'll tell you that in a second. And then we would collectively own the ideas to the extent we all quit our job at the same time. So, and the framework was you needed to come up with an idea that could only be done on the web. So someone said, let's build the first sports website. And we said, well, it's a matter of time before Sports Illustrated or ESPN comes into the space. What can we do that couldn't otherwise be done prior to the internet? And we began focusing on user-generated content. And I came up with the idea, what if we got everyone to commit their Rolodexes to a single database, so that not only in the cloud could I see my Rolodex, but that I could see my second degree, not just the people I know, the people who my friends know. And we would call that, your second degree is your first degree squared. 400 people. They each know 400 people. That's 160,000 people barring overlaps.
And everybody knows Kevin Bacon.
And everyone knows Kevin Bacon. Actually, if you do the math, you would probably know everyone in the world in far less than 6 degrees.
Well, I think excluding like people in the Amazon rainforest.
Dan always has to do that.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I'm
continue.
trying to be precise.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know that we could get to the Amazon, but maybe somebody that did research there, and we could get to him, and maybe we could.
So you
get
were
to the
saying.
Amazon.
So we didn't contemplate.
There's that
but
one
that's what-
island. There's that one island where if you go there, they'll kill you. And you remember that guy went to that island.
Yes.
So we probably couldn't, but everybody else, yes. Okay.
So I said, let's all quit our jobs, and no.
And you
one
probably
else-
couldn't get to like Iran. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Actually, you probably could. I mean,
now.
So I said, let's all quit our jobs, and I was the only one willing to quit my job. So I quit my job, and I got, I don't remember what it was, 7, 8, 9, 10 credit cards, and began building the business. And we wrote the original patent on what a social network was. Foundationally, what underlies a social network is this idea of a single instance of contacts where you're able to represent, your first degree, and again, your second degree, and everything is leveraged off that foundational element. And for a while, we starved in the wilderness. We couldn't raise any capital, and then eventually we raised a lot of capital and built what became, when we sold it, the world's largest social network.
Wait, were you writing the code yourself? You have a computer background at all? Because you were in law school, so I'm assuming no. But.
Yeah. No, I don't have a computer background, but
You buried the lead there. You built the world's largest social network.
we were the world's largest social network.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that.
Okay. He's going to circle back to that.
But it's more important what element of the code I wrote than where we.
Well, I'm just curious how a guy from law school, becomes a computer guy.
I wrote code, and I wrote our initial reservation program, our initial website, PHP MySQL.
You clearly missed the class on coding.
That's it. You teach yourself. It's not that hard.
I didn't do coding. It was very different than today. When people were vibe coding, we had a large team. We had 50. We were probably 100 people, but we had half of those people were engineers, and I'm literate enough to conceptually understand how the coding works. More importantly, the role of a CEO, whether it was then or now, is you really need to be able to conceptualize the product, how it works, what you intend it to do, what the functionality is.
So, but they would.
And there, I was fairly effective.
There was nobody. There was no other social network at the time.
No, we literally. I mean, quite literally.
Well, it was CompuServe and things like AOL.
Well, that's not a social network. Like a social network. When I tell you we were the first social network, we literally, like, you can look up patents, and we literally wrote the defining patent on what a social network was. When we sold the business, the company that we sold it to ultimately sold the patent to Reid Hoffman and Mark Pincus, who were the funders behind some of the original funders behind Meta. And you can hear them talk about, their big fear was that it would be enforced. A great interview Reid Hoffman did where he someone was asked him, how does this patent compare to the element of water? Because it was literally the defining patent in the space. No, there wasn't anyone before us who conceptualized a social network the way we did.
So what was the world's largest social network?
Us.
What was it called?
They were the only ones.
It's called 6 Degrees.
And how many members were in?
There were probably 10 million people in our user base, depending on how you defined. There were probably 10 million people in our user base. And just to keep in mind, the denominator is the total number of people on the internet. Mm-hmm. One of the big challenges we had, and 3.5 million represents a smaller number of that 10 million based on their involvement. What was relevant at the time.
This was at the time of dial-up modems.
No. Dial-up modems were, there were some dial-up modems in 95, but no.
Oh, absolutely. Dial-up modems were.
Yeah, but when we sold in 99, no, people weren't using dial-up modems.
It was crossing the threshold. I remember.
I had dial-up in 2001.
Absolutely. Dial-ups were like that. It was DSL and dial-ups were like yeah.
I mean,
but a lot of your users.
There's a more interesting question, which is why you guys were using dial-up in 2001.
But I didn't have email.
No, not in it was this thing. Not in 2001.
I was.
But in 99, that was exactly the time when the big switch happened.
I'll tell you what was interesting. There were one question I often get is, why didn't you become Facebook? Why didn't you become at the time? The next big social network was Friendster, and then MySpace, and then Facebook. And maybe there are a lot of questions and a lot of things maybe we could have done differently. But one of the things that I think is super interesting is how there are the introduction of technological trends that you couldn't possibly anticipate. And I'll give you a great example. When we sold the business, one of the...
For 125 meg, by the way, I read that online.
One of the questions we got repeatedly from our users was, I'd love to put a picture associated with my profile. And the way people would ask to do that was, can I mail it to you? And they didn't mean email it to you. They meant, can I put it in an envelope and mail it to you? And we contemplated an assembly line of 100 people that would literally take pictures, digitize them, and then you have to associate it with a user. And what people don't realize is, shortly 2001, there was the introduction of phones with cameras. And all of a sudden there were more cameras, digital cameras on phones than there were standalone digital cameras. And it changed the world. It changed how people visualize themselves, how they captured the world, how they memorialize the world. And it changed the nature of social networks.
Well, was the tech there when 6 Degrees was in existence? Was the tech there to use photos on profiles and
Well, when you say that, so there are two elements to when you say was the tech there. I mean, one question that was brought up before was, what's the speed of connectivity and how difficult is it to upload a photo? So you have to think.
Tell me again, what year did this start?
We launched in 97.
Yeah, because I have a very good memory of that period of time because I was heavily involved in the internet then. I opened a bar in 99 and I wanted to offer free internet and I had to have dial-up. And then, I remember this very, very well. And I was on CompuServe. I remember when CompuServe first, which was dial-up in like the mid-90s, first allowed, you could even, it was a big thing in CompuServe to even look at a picture. And it could take a few hours to download.
So there were a couple, right.
So you were like, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you were at a very interesting time. You're straddling two eras of the internet, kind of.
Yes, but there are two problems. One problem is, which is the problem you're reflecting, is if everyone had their photo, how difficult is it for someone to view it? Mm-hmm. But the much bigger problem was how many people had digital photos? And the answer to that was most people didn't have digital photos, which was why they said, but I have a printout of a photo that I got at the local drugstore. Can I mail that to you? And so you needed to bridge both of those, right? Mm-hmm. The two gaps were one, which you're referring to, which is high-speed bandwidth. But the second gap was how many people had digital photography?
And then as soon as they had it on their phone, they had a digital photo, but not necessarily the pipeline to get it anywhere.
But those things largely, so after 6 Degrees, started 6 other businesses, and all of them were based on trying to anticipate. Like one of the businesses I started after that, the business that failed, was in order for there to be Wi-Fi in every place, like in your Comedy Cellar, you need what's called an operational support system, something, a software technology on the back end that's able to provision the bandwidth, authenticate users, remunerate the broadband provider. And we said, it's a matter of time before everyone's using Wi-Fi. What is Wi-Fi? Wi-Fi is unlicensed radio spectrum. And we could talk about that sort of separate topic. That business, ultimately, we had a team of engineers, and it was for whatever reason, that business failed.
What does this stand for? Wireless?
It's wireless fidelity. I don't know.
Frequency? Oh, go ahead.
But what it represents is the radio spectrum is licensed, except a small piece of it. And the way that the FCC regulates that piece of the spectrum is they regulate how much electricity you can use at the back of a broadcast of a router. But the result is you can get very high speed connectivity. And so the question was, will this be pervasive? Anyway, the point that you raised, the macro point we're talking about, is there are larger technological trends than any given business that make that business functionality more exciting. For example, having phones with cameras on them. And then the other example is just high-speed connectivity. And fast forward to 2008, the introduction of the iPhone, and then there's an entirely new world of technology that's enabled. You couldn't possibly have contemplated if you were an entrepreneur building something other than something for a desktop system. Although in that interim period, we actually built an application for dumb phones.
I have a quick question for Noam, if I could.
Yes, sir.
The year is when did you start 6 Degrees? 95, you said?
No, we began in 96. We launched in 97.
Okay, it's 1997 now.
Yeah.
Andrew comes to you. He comes to Comedy Cellar. He enjoys the show. He says, "Oh, you're the owner of the Comedy Cellar." Actually, it was your father at the time, but he comes to you. He says, "I need $500,000 to start this. I had this idea where we all upload. Everybody uploads their Rolodex, and we can all share our contacts. But I need $500,000 from you. Do you do it?" In 1997.
Me?
Yeah.
$500,000. I didn't have $100,000 on my name.
Well, what about 50,000?
I don't think I had 50,000.
I got to tell you, it was one of.
See, I would have told him.
You would have said no.
I would have said
one of the things I look back most fondly at is going out and raising money, and I remember starting the process of going around and asking people for money. And it wasn't just, I didn't just have to explain what 6 Degrees was, I had to explain what the internet was. And everyone rejected me. I mean, when I say everyone rejected me, like it almost became, an enjoyable experience to just hit up rich people, which is really not how you raise money today. Today, you raise money for people that have some domain expertise, right? That have capital. But then it was just hit up every rich person. And I must have been rejected well over 100 people. And one guy told me, this isn't just the dumbest idea I've ever heard. You're the dumbest person I've ever met. And which I thought was great. And I said to him, do you mind if I come back and share with you, my progress? And he said, yes. And so, but I called him a couple months later and
I said, person Donald Trump?
The person was not Donald Trump.
Okay, go ahead.
So, he said, yes, I do mind if you come back. But I came back anyway a couple months later, and he still said he thought it was the dumbest idea he'd ever heard. But now he thought I was amusing. Mm-hmm. And I came back a third time, and I left with a check for $100,000 on the condition that he wouldn't have to, speak to me again. And then I showed up the very next day, and I said, you're going to lose your money if I don't raise some more money. So I need you to open up your Rolodex, and I need your friends to invest. And I ultimately raised money from his friends as well.
For something he didn't believe in.
For something he didn't believe in, from with an entrepreneur he thought was the dumbest person he'd ever met.
No, what happened even when you came back and you'd been so successful?
Oh,
well, he invested, so he got
He made money.
No, but
he was a difficult person.
Now,
Was he so?
No,
I mean,
no.
no.
He was
I had an
miserly.
idea at the time for 5 degrees.
You know,
You should have started that.
I remember when I heard about
That opportunity is still open to you.
I remember when I heard about Friendster, and I remember thinking, why is that interesting? So I certainly wouldn't have been, receptive to.
Well, I would have been receptive. So I was always. So I had a conversation. I think I told the story before. In 92, 93, that's what it feels like to me. You could probably, anybody could look it up. There was a big article in the New York Times about the fact that 10% of the country, something like that, had personal computers. And I called my father and I said, I have to meet with you, like a formal meeting. And I never did that. And I showed him the article and I said, only 10% of the country has personal computers. And we know it's going to be 100%. We should take every dime we can raise and invest it in Microsoft now. And he said, you're absolutely right. And then we never followed up. I swear to God, we both got onto other things. but I always understood that the sky was the limit when it came to computers.
Don't you think there are so many things like that today? You look around and I mean, you can read about stuff in the paper and you could say, a small universe of people have this, but isn't it obvious that everyone will?
Well, the thing is, what's funny about this story, I'm just repeating, is that it wasn't just like I said it. I actually called a meeting. It wasn't just like an anecdote. Like this was a serious thing.
Yeah.
I was very adamant about it.
Not a lot of people probably call formal meetings with their father.
No, anyway, so could you imagine?
You would not be talking to me.
I would be, but it would be,
Well,
I'd be talking down to you.
Your chair would be higher.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you've done pretty well with the comedy. So
I listen. If you live long enough, you always have these close calls with both success and failure. Actually, thank God I didn't do that. This is just part of living,
Yeah.
But that one, you were trying to get me to buy Bitcoin when it was at like $25 or something.
I don't know if I was trying to get you. I think I mentioned it to you and said you might as well.
And what did
that's
you say?
stupid, Dan.
You said it was stupid?
I still don't understand Bitcoin, but obviously.
But we had somebody here years ago on the podcast who wrote a book about Facebook, and he said that the reason Friendster went under was because they grew too fast and it kept crashing. And that's what why Zuckerberg was smarter, because he grew Facebook very slowly. I don't know if that's
I don't
speak to that or not.
was
but
No.
I forgot his name. He wrote a book called The Facebook Revolution,
right,
I think it was called.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things people thought about social networks was that the network effect made them absolutely defensible. In other words, once you built the network, no one would ever want to start from scratch. And, so there would be
MySpace,
6 degrees, and how would you replace that? And there would be Friendster, and how would you replace that? And we get all the way to Facebook. And meanwhile, what's Zuckerberg's brilliance? It really isn't just Facebook. It's his acquisitions, right? Like in the absence of acquiring Instagram and WhatsApp,
yes,
you'd be looking at a declining property with Facebook.
I'm not sure about WhatsApp, but definitely Instagram, right?
Well, I would include WhatsApp in that.
Maybe because of the technology of WhatsApp.
I'm just talking about the usage of WhatsApp but Instagram for sure. Like, you look at the traffic of TikTok and Instagram, and then you look at the trajectory of what was happening with Facebook and how it's really, Facebook's what older people use. Like, there are no young people that are engaged in Facebook anymore.
I mean, aren't...
So a lot of that, by the way, is anticipating what is the context in which people are going to use these social networks. And that's changed over time.
Isn't like iMessaging and now Google messaging, aren't they basically doing everything that WhatsApp can do at this point?
When you say doing everything they can do,
you can create groups. You can set what can I do
on WhatsApp?
What can I do on WhatsApp that I can't do on the other messaging service?
Well, the whole notion of WhatsApp was to defeat the payment of long distance of long distance carriers. If you paying it, you connected. Not for SMS, for voice. Like everyone.
Oh, for voice. Okay.
Every single person.
But Skype was doing that before WhatsApp.
Yes, but WhatsApp, Skype never really took off as a downloadable application with your phone. Whereas,
interesting.
Right? And the other big issue was, and there's some workarounds with this with iMessage. I think particularly in the last year, But a big issue with the carriers is interoperability. So one of the things that happened in Europe was text messaging took off well before it did in the United States, because you were absolutely certain that if you were on one carrier and I was on another and you sent a message, I got it. Whereas in the United States, because we had CDMA, TDMA, GSM, if you were on AT&T, there was no guarantee that me on Verizon would get a text message. That interoperability has been solved. But on iMessage, that took a while, or took longer to solve. And then people don't use, like, the whole idea of defeating long distance payments, which have come down, is really a WhatsApp phenomenon.
It's funny, you're jogging memories here, because I used to use this service. Like, it was Telemessage. I don't remember what it was called. It was like a SMS hub. And it was right. It was always like, well, did the Verizon people get it? Did the T-Mobile people get it? It's like, it was always
right.
It's like, what the hell? Like, how could this be in the United States of America, you know?
Yeah.
They finally did solve it, for the most part. For the most part. From time to time, you still get a glitch.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's an interoperability glitch, but yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
So now, why did you? So we never got to the question, like, why did you not try to take 6 Degrees? Why did you sell it when you sold it and not try to make it even bigger? Or you just got an offer you couldn't refuse? Or
I mean, we were not. The word profit wasn't even a word like any of us used. I mean, we were bleeding money. I mean, these companies cost a fortune to run, and they take a very long time to make money. And so, we were always in a situation of, we got to raise a fortune. Like, I mean, that business raised over $25 million. We would have had to have raised a significantly larger amount to continue going. And so,
but what was the source of revenue at that time? You had advertising, I guess.
Yeah, advertising.
But it was minuscule revenue, right?
Relative to what people were doing today, it was minuscule. Yeah.
And relative to your costs.
Relative to our costs. Yeah. Yeah. We were losing money. I mean, we were losing money. I mean, these businesses take a very, very long time to make money.
One of the things that I admire and marvel at with Amazon is just how long they managed. Bezos stuck with it and managed to stay afloat while they were losing money for 15 years. How long did he lose money for? For a long time.
More than that. Well, I will say this. They generated a lot of revenue, which was not true for people that were building ad-based businesses. He generated a lot of revenue because he was selling books.
Yeah.
The cost of selling those books was more expensive, and he was able to monetize for the entire operation, but the revenue was scaling. And his ambition was so large and was so direct, and he was able to connect the dots for people that, at some point, if you get big enough, it will become profitable. Ironically, by the way, that like at least half of their earnings come from AWS and not from.
Well, what's AWS?
The web services.
Amazon Web Services.
Amazon Web Services, right? So Andy Jassy, who's the CEO, who, funny enough.
Wait, are you saying that without AWS, it's not a profitable business?
It is a profitable business, but to put it in context, I'm the entire business, the commerce business does, I don't know what it does now, $400 billion a year. And the margins are equivalent to AWS, which is doing a fraction of that has like 50% margins. It's like, I mean, it's a much more profitable business, AWS, than the commerce business. They're both good businesses.
Fascinating.
Were you talking about Andrew Jassy?
Oh, I went to a sleepaway camp, and I was in a bunk with 4 people, and one of them was him. I've never spoken to him since.
No, you never spoken to me?
Who?
With Andrew Jassy.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
The CEO of Amazon.
Well, then what's Bezos? If he's the CEO, what's Bezos?
Bezos is the guy who goes, on this incredible yacht and
why did MySpace collapse and Facebook became the
I can't tell you. I don't have a good answer for why one collapsed and we moved on to the next. I mean, there's actually a documentary coming out, but I can't tell you why.
It was just better. Facebook was way better than MySpace.
Facebook was cleaner. Well, in terms of the crashing issue, I do remember MySpace crashing a lot because people put all kinds of crap on their page.
You had to take a picture of yourself and send it to MySpace. It was like being run half-assed.
I have a question.
Yeah.
how do Facebook and Instagram, Meta, whatever, get away with having absolutely like zero customer service? Like something goes wrong, bombarded with like the most egregious calls to violence, anti-Semitism. Just as like one
I was
example.
just going to make a joke. It's going to be anti-Semitism.
Just one example.
I said no, it's not going to be anti-Semitism,
anything.
but it was.
God
damn it, Dworman, go with your first instincts.
And like, there's nobody to talk to. I mean, forget that. Your identity gets stolen. They shut down your account.
They heard your voice.
And like, there's nobody to talk to. Like, there are people who have like millions of followers. Like, do you know anybody at Meta who can help me recover my account? Like, how are they getting away with this?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
It is a good question.
Thank you.
You know, it's not just them. It's commerce companies too. Companies get away with what their customers are comfortable with.
Google, like if you get somebody trashing you in a Google review, and it's an outrageous, absolute slander, legally actionable, et cetera, you cannot get anybody on the phone.
Do you know what's interesting?
All these companies.
Your willingness to, one of the questions people ask, you're asking about customer service. Another question people ask is, would we ever get to a place where people would participate where their privacy is compromised? Mm-hmm. And what these tech companies have realized over time is that for all the vocal people who say we care a lot about privacy, you haven't asked me, by the way, what I think of social media today. But for all of the people that say they care about privacy, or say they care about customer service, or say they care about libel or being slandered, the reality is most people don't. Mm-hmm. And because most people don't, the tech companies are able to say, this makes good business sense for us to basically use all of this data, initially use this data to target. Now they're using this data to train.
Boycott.
No. But 1 second. Part of what makes Amazon so great is that their customer service is, impeccable.
No, Amazon is completely different.
It is, but I'll use you as an example. Like, part of your, you're insane for customer service, right?
I'm selling things.
But the question you're asking is, what are people willing to tolerate? Mm-hmm. If Amazon didn't have great customer service, you would buy the products they're offering somewhere else.
That's right.
But if Instagram doesn't have great customer service, you're still probably doom scrolling at night. And they know that. They know
you're going to show your tits.
Right. OnlyFans.
What could they theoretically get access to people's DMs, these companies? Or is that somehow
You don't tick the right box.
No, they have access. What do you mean?
Could they?
I don't even give a shit about my privacy.
I'm just,
online. I don't know what people are worried about.
Just asking.
Well, you know, it's an interesting question.
If they're somehow locked away.
When you say you don't care what people worry about, you care if people read your email?
Do I care if people read my email? I only care that somebody who knows who I am, who could leverage that email to hurt me. Yes, I care about that. And I respect that.
So yes, right?
Well, yeah, but like in terms of the normal thing, like they read my email and they gave me an ad that had to. I don't freak out about that. At some point, of course, I want my privacy.
Right.
It's
like the frog that's in a boiling pot of water. You don't really notice it. Like, and if I were to tell you initially,
but that's not true. But go ahead. It does jump out.
All right, but
it's apocryphal, but it's a good analogy.
If I were to tell you initially that someone's going to read your email, you would say no way. And then if I were to tell you, which you know what, maybe they'll just look for keywords and they'll send you ads, you would say, you know what, I think I'm okay with that. And now, if Google says to you, you know what, if we read all of your email, all of it, and we train on it, and we're able to personalize, and we're able to, there are a ton of services that are saying to you, if we can ingest your email and develop a persona on you, we can answer your questions, by the way, just based on your email. So, so for example,
I love that.
Would you have loved that if I asked you that question 8 years ago when you were writing a private message to your doctor and saying, I have this issue. And now that issue that you shared is going to be.
I get it. I don't want like a Valtrex commercial. I get it. Like if I have an issue, I don't want that. But in general, like, you know,
But everybody has those issues.
Wait,
I don't have those issues.
Are they doing that, or they have to ask our permission first to be able to do what you're saying?
So the services that are saying, let me ingest all your email, and I can, instead of you querying, ChatGPT, you can query your ChatGPT. You can use that large language model, that base model, but you can use that in the context of the specifics of who you are. There are a ton of services that are saying, yeah, opt into that. Are they doing that?
I opted into every one of them.
Yeah. You're saying you will opt into every one of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
And
what about-
what I'm saying is that
You
kind of
probably
goes
do
back.
too.
Well, actually, what's funny is I'm very, I'm a little more paranoid than you are. I mean, to me, I think it's
What are you hiding?
I'm you should have started this podcast with that, right? I'm very intentional about those things. I think the problem is, if you really want to understand, like I think your medical history is a great example. Like if you really want to understand your own medical history, what you would do is you would take everything from my chart, right? Which is, here we're in New York. And
My chart is actually much more worrisome than my email. Meaning, like, I'm amazed that there is a database out there of everybody's private medical records, that the chance is much greater than zero that will be hacked one day. And then everybody can just Google what are Periel's STDs.
Right. But forget about what will be hacked.
That would be awful.
Let's just talk about your behavior.
Not surprising, but awful.
But let's just talk about your behavior. In New York,
Yeah.
My chart, which is on an Epic back end,
Yeah.
and that is for Columbia, NYU, Cornell, all the medical systems here. With a few clicks, you can download all your medical history.
Yep.
And you can upload all of that to
A scan of my dick is available.
And you can upload all of that to ChatGPT. Yeah. And instead of you going to the doctor and saying, hey, by the way, can you talk to me about my blood over 20 years? You can do that today on your own. And we're moving to...
And get a much more reliable answer, by the way.
And probably get a much more reliable answer because in order for the doctor to sit there with a bunch of papers and go through your blood, the trending of your... Well, actually, they do show trending on
Unless
some of
he goes and uses ChatGPT.
or she.
Or she, right.
I would never. Come on, let's be realistic. Go ahead.
No, so you begin to think, does the value outweigh the cost, which is, yes, once I download it and I upload it, it is in these other systems forever, which goes to your question again of, what happens when they ignore me from a customer service perspective? And their answer will be, first of all, we won't ignore you. We're going to have AI agents that'll seem like they're responding to you, right? And they will do their best to respond to you. But the question for all of these tech companies...
It's a huge fail.
But the question for all these tech companies is, does the value outweigh the cost of people on the fringe? And some people will get lost in the chaos.
The thing that is most disturbing is that I happen to have a friend who works at Meta. And like, that's really the only way that anything ever gets fixed.
It's disturbing that you have a friend that works there?
No, it's disturbing that like, that's really the
It's disturbing you have customer service issues with Instagram. What, like how? What?
You want to see.
Put your fucking photos up and shut up.
Bullshit. You want to see the death to Israel?
Oh, let it go.
No, it's disgusting. If they said that about anybody
This
else.
is why, you know what? I don't believe in anti-Jewish conspiracy theories, but this may be why they have no customer
Because
service.
of me.
They
Wait,
just can't stand our kvetching.
I mean, there are a lot of tech companies where you do have customer service issues that you can't speak to a person. It's, I
got to tell you something. I get this is the wine talking. I get complaints from customers on a regular basis. So we seek them out.
Complaints about the podcast or about the comedy show?
No, about
complaints
the comedy
about me.
Like someone came up and they weren't funny.
Something
Or
wasn't funny. My drink wasn't right.
You never get complaints about people not being funny.
Yes,
You do?
yes, we do.
I know you get complaints about people that they made fun of a kid dying.
We get complaints about people not being
That was a
funny.
great one.
We get complaints about the climate. We get complaints every day. I get. Some days I get none, but I get. There's no week that goes I don't get it. If you were to hold a gun to my head and say, listen, I want you to tell me the truth, and if you get this wrong, I'm going to shoot you. Do you detect any ethnic patterns in these complaints? I could not tell you no.
Will you stop?
And I don't just mean Jewish, by the way. I can't say more than that. But
What?
I'll tell you one thing. We
It's women?
get very few like
Wait, why
just
can't you?
waspy complaints? I'll tell you that right now. It's and the type of complaints like everything we're told is false. Like and there's nobody who judges people as individuals more than I do. But the notion that there's no difference between peoples, between cultures, between profiles is such a big lie. It's the biggest lie we all embrace.
You lost
we all
me.
know it's not
You lost
true.
me. The complaints are because you're Jewish, or the complaints are coming from Jews.
Both.
What the fuck? I didn't say anything about Jews.
It's a particular.
I'm saying that
type of complaint.
there's certain types of complaints. I didn't want to mention the other. I'm just saying, like, not even talking about Jews. I'm just saying that
certain complaints are from certain types.
certain ethnic groups are far overrepresented in the number of complaints that I get, and certain groups are far underrepresented.
But you don't think? But you don't think part of that is their familiarity with you?
No, it has nothing to do with
No,
it.
they don't know.
They don't know
who
they're
he
explained to
is.
me.
Really?
Yeah. No.
Wait a second.
You think all people are the same?
No, I don't think all. I don't think all people.
The
are
fuck
the
is
same.
with you? Like you're a genius and you think all people. You think.
Wait a second. Stop. I really.
But I do think that there's people are more comfortable complaining when there's a sense of familiarity with the person.
Yeah,
Do you think
or
if
the
you were
institution-
have you
or
ever
the
been a waiter?
institution-
Have you ever been a waiter?
I actually have been a waiter.
and you thought that like every customer is the same as every other customer. It doesn't matter. Like there's no indicators.
I mean, there
I'll
was a
get
lot.
the- I'll
there
get
was-
the same tip from anybody.
There was a lot to complain about when I was a
But
waiter.
I'm saying you obviously different groups tip differently. Different groups are come on. Don't we all live in the same planet?
Do you find if you're in Israel that you
Why Israel?
No, because I'm asking if you find
trying to figure out if this is all about Jews. That's the.
It's not all,
There was
no,
a-
it's partially about Jews, but Jews are not the only people that we can generalize about.
You
If they're
find
the
when
only
you're- when-
people that you're allowed to say it about.
We will only talk about Jews, and we will just try to imply other groups. Go ahead.
when you're in Israel, do you find you're able to you feel less self-conscious about doing something Jewish? Like you might be more apt to return to send back a dish because
Is that a Jewish thing to do?
I think so.
No, I don't. I don't feel that way in Israel. And
I don't think Israelis do that. I think
I didn't
that's an
experience any of
American-
this when I was a waiter.
An American thing.
Anyway,
you know, I first of all, I don't send back dishes. What am I, a fucking creep? But no. In general, as a restaurant owner, I wish the customer would send back the dish. Like I don't have that attitude because as the restaurant owner, I'm like I would so much prefer them to send back the dish so I can fix it than present them with a check for something they didn't like. Like why would I want that?
that's interesting. I mean, interesting perspective.
But it's so.
But it makes sense.
It's such good logic. Like, why in the hell? No, I don't. I want that customer to pay me $30 for that dish they hated, so they'll never fucking come again. Like, of course, please tell me so I can fix it.
Well, I'll make a note of that next time. The next time the salmon tastes a little fishier
You
than
don't
I prefer.
fucking pay.
Yes, but
For you, there's nothing to be
But my
gained.
feedback is still valuable.
No, of course. You know that I always want to know.
The salmon's always excellent, by the way. Listen to me. I really am taking issue with what you're saying about these comments. Your daughter,
Who made the honor roll again? Yes, go ahead.
I mean, do you really think that this stuff should go unchecked on social media? Like, I don't know. You're not on there that much. I know you're on Twitter more than you are on Instagram, and you don't take Instagram that seriously, and you think it's like a dumb joke, and that's fine. But I am telling you that the amount of like calls to actual violence and killing people because they're Jewish is so fucking outrageous.
I think you're pissing in the wind. I do
Oh,
think.
I very well may be.
Yeah, I think that the sum total of all that, I don't want to say it doesn't have an effect. It does have an effect. But I think that ship has sailed. I think we're going to have to learn to live in a world that has all that out there, and we're going to.
I couldn't disagree with you more. There's
I
a
wasn't
great
finished. Go ahead. Go ahead.
there's a great podcast worth listening to called The Rabbit Hole from the
Can you come this way and tell me?
from the New York Times. And what the
You
podcast,
lost me already, but go ahead.
because I said The Rabbit Hole or the
The
New York Times.
But go ahead. Of course they're going to say that, yeah.
And this is years ago, but let me just tell you what the podcast was about, because it goes directly to this question of whether you can put the genie back in the bottle. So the topic was, the topic began with, how did YouTube become YouTube? And it traced the origin of QAnon. And what it talked about was that the engineers at YouTube were incentivized and motivated to increase traffic. And so they played with, what are the algorithms when you see something that would get you to watch the next video? And what they quickly found was that people that watched videos that had the slightest inkling of conservatism were more likely to watch if the next video was a little bit more conservative. And the same thing was true on the liberal side. And so the financial motivation for these algorithms was not, it wasn't so direct as radicalize people, but the consequence of these algorithms was to radicalize people. And that's exactly what happened. It wasn't just YouTube, it's all of these platforms radicalized people dramatically and contributed, not in an incidental way, to the deep polarization of what's going on in this country. Now, the question about anti-Semitism is, why is that propagating so rapidly today on social media? And one of the questions is, because most people are engaged in this habit of doom scrolling, if you find yourself looking at anti-Semitic content or content from Tucker Carlson and Candace Owen, the videos that they will present to you after the initial ones you watch from Tucker Carlson and Candace Owen will be other content that is similarly inflammatory, and that creates
much more so,
and it creates this environment of hate. And so if you don't think that the tech companies play a role in propagating that hate,
I didn't say that.
No, but what you did say was that
you got to live with it.
Was you have to live with this idea that there is hatred.
The genie is not going back in the bottle.
No, but
Candace Owens has the #1 podcast on planet Earth in her category, and I don't see any scenario you're going to knock her down to number 100 where she should be, or whatever. I just think.
But of course you will. Like of course the people
that
let's
make a bet.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Of course the content that's the most popular today. By the way, it may be more radical, but of course the content that's most popular today is not the content that's most popular tomorrow. That's the conversation we were just saying about social networks, that the popularity of a social network can morph over time, and that's more intractable than a podcaster. If for no other reason, then her content will get stale, she'll get older, and there will be new people that replace her. And the question is, how do these people become popular? And in large part, the way they become popular is because of the algorithms of these networks that encourage people that they think could be attracted to the content to continue to watch it. So the idea that the social networks can't play a role in stopping that inflammatory content, it's absurd.
But if
of course they could play a role in stopping it.
But you have to legislate that, because they're trying to make as much money as possible, so they're going to do what you suggested. The only way to stop it would be to legislate against it.
So,
or to keep reporting these comments
to the customer service that doesn't reply.
Well,
what Dan is implying is that it's illegal to legislate it, and that's the roadblock.
Well, I don't love painting things in such a binary fashion. Like you either, complain about it or you legislate against it. Like there are some economic incentives to stop this behavior. And so do I think it could be a combination of, like in some countries, social media is outlawed until you're of a certain age, right? In Australia, they just raised the age. Do I think there'll be a combination of how these algorithms optimize, are written? Do I think if there was transparency in the algorithms, I think if the whole world
which
knew,
Musk promised, by the way, when he took over Twitter, he promised to make the algorithm public.
But the idea that this, the anti-Semitism actually, and by the way, it's not just anti-Semitism. It's the, I find it offensive. I find the racism, the homophobia,
you're a liberal.
I'm very conservative.
No, we do find of course the racism is offensive. I don't mean to be flippant. I'm actually making a joke.
But the idea that, there's nothing we can do about it. that's
I don't think there's anything we can do.
But I just told you how you could do something about it.
No, but
Like, I
Dan
literally just
made a
told
good
you.
point. You have to legislate. They're not going to do it on their own, and legislating it is probably not legal.
Do you know no, that's not true.
It may be legal for only one subgroup, which is children. So you could possibly raise the age and of course, we all know how effective these things are because none of us ever had exposure to marijuana or Playboy magazine when we were kids. But the fact is that, yes, you can legislate for children, but grown-ups, you cannot legislate what they see.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing you can legislate is incitement to violence. And
But
then,
that's what I'm talking about.
No. Hold on a second.
Specifically.
Being granular here is worthwhile because no one is suggesting that you ban Candace Owens. The question is, for someone who's watching a slightly fringe video, what are the circumstances where the next video that automatically appears is Candace Owens?
How do you
That's
stop
the question.
that?
So that is a function of an algorithm that is not transparent to us. And the question is, will it be a regulatory change, or is it possible that there are new social networks that evolve all the time? And where is it possible that what we see, by the way, whether it's because someone intentionally develops a social network or through the use of AI, we're able to see these things?
Let me put it a different way. And this way, there's a very low probability.
I don't think I'm being invited back.
No, of course. There's a very low probability that is going to change in the modern world. Much more important, I think, is that we need to develop cultural institutions and mores and norms that fight against this stuff. For instance, we need to be teaching our kids at an early age how to interpret what they see on the internet, how to identify things, how to know what's true and what's not true.
It's not either or. And I think that's cynical. It's not either or. Like if that's not enough, like I can just tell you, like if we were to,
so let me say,
if we were to explore all the consequences of AI unchecked, okay. And by the way, with a lack of transparency.
But I just want to make a point.
Yeah.
Before all this stuff, the National Enquirer and the Weekly World News always dwarfed the New York Times circulation. There's always been a huge market from this. Before the internet, we all heard about Richard Gere putting a gerbil in his ass. This is true.
And we all believed it until the internet came, until Snopes.
The spread of this stuff is very different. Anti-Semitic conspiracy theories spread like wildfire before the internet.
Not at the rate, by the way, you can examine
in certain countries it did.
Certainly, if we're talking about 1930s, Germany, Austria, many parts of Eastern Europe, that's true. But you could examine the spread of anti-Semitism over different times.
In the 90s, we had the black community talking about the secret relationship between, the blacks and Jews and what was this book about the Jewish slave trade? And
I think that's
all kinds of Jews were involved in this guy Coakley in Chicago. Jews were involved in creating AIDS to inject into black children. Like these conspiracy theories all spread.
That wasn't the entire black community. Those were isolated incidents, and you can't compare.
Did I say the entire? I didn't mean to say the entire.
No,
black community.
but the you can measure.
But these were big things.
You can measure.
They spread very quickly without algorithms.
You can, but not on a scale that's even comparable. You can measure the number of offensive comments and their virality and their velocity by era. And there's no question that the ADL tracks this. There's no question that what's happening today is at a scale we have not seen since the 1930s.
Yeah, okay. Let's move on to something else.
Well,
I think it's here to stay.
I
think it's here to stay.
I have a question. Moving on to something else. Okay, Noam didn't have $50,000 in 1997 to invest. He certainly has it now. So is there anything? Now you're an angel investor. You got a lot of companies you're looking into. Where can Noam put his money that you're involved with? Are you, what?
Fucking Jew. Go ahead.
Well, I'm saying, is there something, that
Before we go, I want to read something from Tolstoy, but go ahead.
Okay.
So I'm not sure, I'm not sure I have any advice about what to invest in. But
Index funds.
I can tell you things that I think are coming.
Okay.
So we have this immense housing shortage in the United States. And one of the reasons we have this immense housing shortage in the United States
all the immigrants. is
No, okay, go ahead.
is because it's too expensive to build. And
yes.
so do I think, and the landscape of people that have companies that have built prefabricated modular housing, it is like a graveyard of companies that have failed. But do I think there will be an inflection point where you will see, don't think of it as entire houses built inside of factories, but components that are largely assembled like Legos? And do I think at some point we'll see a bend the same way, electric cars seemingly came out of nowhere? Absolutely. And so there are other areas. Like, I think if you were to say, like, if you were thinking about the world, I think the way you would think about it is not what companies are exciting. You would think about what verticals are exciting. Where's the world about to dramatically change?
Yeah.
Housing, it will dramatically change. Quantum computing will dramatically change. Electric vertical takeoff and landing, autonomous planes will dramatically
Sex robots.
Oh, yeah.
Warfare will dramatically change. Like the next war we fight, you're seeing these autonomous drones. And you can imagine, how far are we from having 100,000 autonomous subs that are the size of a bathtub in the Taiwan Strait?
So this thing, and then I read my Tulsa. This thing about housing is very interesting, and I think you're probably right. So the electric car, I have a Tesla. Do you have a Tesla?
No.
So
Largely because I was so offended by him.
yeah, but I did before that, before he took Twitter. But I wouldn't trade it for that. I love this car. I have a Model S.
I get it. It makes a lot of sense. If you do a lot of driving, it makes a lot of sense.
It's a phenomenal thing. But there was this documentary. I don't even think I actually saw it or saw the whole thing. Who Killed the Electric Car? Remember, this was like a documentary in the early 2000s. And
do you know 25% of cars were electric in like early 1900s,
yes, I've heard it, but
1925?
So this thing, I remember when I first got the Tesla, I looked at it, I was looking around at it, and I think all the technologies which had to be mature all at the same time to make this thing work. LED technology, Wi-Fi technology, like it is so many things that just weren't battery technology. Yeah. But there's so many other things to it. If you just look around.
The key there is battery, though. I think the most
no, but that's
significant
the thing. Yes, maybe, but just with the battery, it still couldn't have worked. Just these flat screens being cheap.
He's right. The initial conceptualization of the Tesla was they would just build a new powertrain. And then they realized, no, you need to reinvent every aspect of the car in order for it to work. And the brilliance was, if you may need to improve every aspect 1%, 2%, but if you don't reinvent the entirety of the car, you cannot build. At one point, Tesla, received the highest rating of any car on performance.
It just wouldn't have been cost effective. Yeah. I wish I'd made the list. I began to look at everything in the car. Mm-hmm. I said, well, this didn't exist in the 90s. This didn't exist. And I realized, well, whatever kind of electric car that they said who killed electric car, it was never going to sell. People barely want to buy really, electric cars now. But like, what kind of range could they possibly, like everything that you're saying and more. So, I forgot what the point was at right now, but it was just like a perfect storm. And sometimes, the housing thing.
The housing.
So the housing thing, like this, I think the earlier attempts at what you spoke of probably are analogous to these earlier attempts at electric car. But once all the components are there.
But what tech are we missing?
Yes, you'll just order a fucking house on Amazon and configure it however you want in a 3D rendering, and they will deliver it. Now, I actually live in a modular house. It's so, but it's going to be far beyond.
Well, what tech are we missing?
Well, I can tell you, when you think about building a house, the design is at the front end, and then there's permitting, entitlement, right? All of that AI will condense to a day. And that's right off the bat, like will condense to a day. And then on the build of the house, just organizing all of the trades, that's another area where AI could condense and make incredibly efficient. But what will happen is the entirety of a house breaks down to systems, a structural system, an HVAC system, and all of these, a plumbing system. And all of these systems will be built independently and they'll be interoperable.
That's insane.
And then you will order the house and it will integrate these interoperable systems. And because you can do the design, which is this lengthy process, that takes a huge amount of time. And then there's the permitting, piece, and you can condense all of that with AI. and then you have systems that will be interoperable, at some point, every failure will turn into one enormous success. The question is whether that happens in the next 2 years, the next 20.
That's insane.
But we could talk about, I mean, that level of progress will occur in a lot of different spaces. And your question was, where should he invest? You should pick industries that you think are on the cusp of a reinvention. And then instead of trying to pick one company, you would say, I'm going to go all in on that industry.
Well, what else besides home building?
Well, you know, this war I find in Iran is fascinating. Like the cost, we're having this enormous conversation about whether we should put troops on the ground and the cost of that. And we think about that in terms of blood and treasure. But how far are we to the point where you can put troops on the ground that aren't people? And because we know that we have troops in the sky, right? We have drones where if the drone gets shot down, no one dies. And we know we're on the cusp of a huge number of submarines. Well, there'll be no people in the submarines. And we know that there are robots that are being developed that will be the equivalent of a soldier. I mean, that's a phenomenal, like that raises huge, you know, policy questions for, you know, for future.
Well, where are we in robotics in terms of robots being able to replace blue-collar workers? Maybe they can replace lawyers, but can they actually?
Your question is how far are we from a apparel factory in Bangladesh that has 10,000 people, and Trump's talking about onshoring it, and you bring it onshore, and you got one guy who's turning on the switch in the morning, day and night, and the designs are all performed by AI, and you've disintermediated, you've cut out all those people. And I will say, one of the crazy things about the tariffs is we don't actually make the robots that could automate that apparel factory. We would need to import them and non-tariff them. So there's a great deal of irony in that. But that, you know, this whole idea, we're onshoring stuff, but we're tariffing the things we would need to fully onshore it. I can't tell you a number of years, but I can tell you the level of dislocation that will happen will be stunning, absolutely stunning.
How hysterical is it? And what a lesson in humility.
Well, I'm getting, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Dan?
My sound is getting weird. All right, yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, now we got you.
I'm going in and out.
Yeah, you're going in and out. Yeah.
1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, I think that's good now. Okay. How hysterical is it? And what a lesson in humility is it? That at this point, I can have AI, a robot, essentially, as my lawyer before I could get a robot waiter in the olive tree. Like we all assumed.
Yeah.
We just assumed that we'd have robots doing menial tasks, flipping burger.
100%.
I don't know that I would have.
We'd all already like, I really don't know.
No, but lean into his point. Yeah. Everyone was told, if you want to have a secure job, learn to program, right?
Yep. Learn to code.
Learn to code. And those are the first jobs that are being eviscerated.
But I think that was foreseeable. I think that was foreseeable because computer technology has been advancing. Moore's Law. There's no Moore's Law with robotics.
First of all, Dan, you know this. It was foreseeable by me because one of our earliest podcasts, how we met Tyler Cowen, is that I wanted to talk about the fact that I think I'd already prefer to be diagnosed by a computer than a doctor. And that was like 7-8 years ago. And everybody said, oh my
100%.
God.
There's a study that shows 100,000 mammograms examined looking for false positives by doctors and compared to AI. And AI outperforms them.
And it was before AI. And my argument was, it could just be an algorithm that in the old days, the doctor was the smartest guy in the town because he had the best memory and he had the books in the back room. But in the end, still you were hostage to whatever he remembered or could find in his book. But a computer, you give it a certain symptoms and it can give you a distribution of every single thing in the history of the earth that this has been. And you can eliminate it from... this is so upsetting. Can we get a fucking AI for this? And you can eliminate it, from most probable to least probable, and it'll never make a mistake. And AI has only advanced it beyond anything I conceived of at the time, including photographs now identifying moles, like really I have so many experiences with doctors giving me the wrong information. Top doctors. Yeah. It's insane.
But can a robot stitch up a wound? Yes.
Not so much yet. It will be able to, but that's more like a menial task.
I saw a video of a doctor, I think it was at Mass Gen, using augmented reality to repair a cleft palate of a terribly deformed child. I think it was Peru, with a local doctor in Peru was untrained, assisting in that. Now that was augmented reality coupled with, the benefit of a local doctor. But are we that far from robots? First of all, there are robots that are autonomously performing some procedures, but the question is how far are we from them performing the most elaborate procedures?
I mean, LASIK surgery is essentially robotic, right? That's on your fucking eyeball.
It's incredible. If you were to go through industry by industry, it's really incredible. If you got very granular and you said, why is that going to change? It's really incredible the change that we're going to see in the next 5 years.
But I still can't get an AI agent to answer my customers correctly about their fucking reservations, and I've paid through the nose for this already.
And I just read that now they're trying to figure out if it is ethical to allow people to have sex with their AI, like chatbot girlfriends and boyfriends.
How to have sex?
It is.
No, there's
No.
all.
Her question is whether it's cheating. She's saying, is it
Okay.
cheating for
No,
you? To
no,
have-
no.
Perfect entry into my Tolstoy
No,
quote.
that's not what I was.
Can I read about Tolstoy?
By the way,
about-
before you read about your
Yeah.
Tolstoy quote, how far are we from there being pattern recognition as to what's funny, and you having your comedians perform without an audience, and AI will tell them what type of response they will get?
That's interesting. Can we get back to the
I
cheating?
think we're a ways
Yeah.
away from that.
Well,
But
no, it's
I would
very,
never
it's
say- I
very,
would
good-
never
very good
say-
point.
I
Like
would
I don't
never
need
say
to
never.
audition. You get, don't even send me your tape until you get a 9.2 on
That
the-
happens. That's
Yeah.
been happening in pop music for like 20 years. They have an algorithm.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's also, the delivery. I mean, I guess.
Don't worry, Dan. You'll be dead and gone.
Okay. I think that. I think we're a ways away from that.
Of course you do. Okay. So Tolstoy. I'm reading
Tolstoy, go ahead.
his name Paul Johnson's book, The Intellectuals, and he has a little chapter on famous intellectuals that I read. Rousseau. Oh, what a hack he was. But anyway, and now I'm reading about Tolstoy, and there's two just wonderful. Now Tolstoy is considered to be the most insightful, like the greatest writer. This is what he said about. I'll just read it. And it's apropos of cheating. Should we, I wish I could do a Russian accent. Should we permit promiscuous sexual intercourse, as many, quote, liberals wish to do? Impossible. It will be the ruin of family life. To meet the difficulty, the law of development has evolved a golden bridge in the form of the prostitute. Just think of London without its 70,000 prostitutes. What would become of decency and morality? How would family life survive without them? How many women and girls would remain chaste? No, I believe the prostitute is necessary for the maintenance of the family. What he's saying essentially is that without this outlet of prostitution, we would lose this cherished institution of families. It's like
What
Are you buying
what I
into
want to
this?
know is why were you going to? You were talking about this Tolstoy quote 10 minutes ago when we weren't even on the topic.
fortuitous.
Okay.
And then he also and he also said he wrote in 1898 when he was 70, woman is generally stupid.
That sounds like Bobby Fischer.
Woman is generally stupid.
Woman.
But the devil lends her brains when she works for him. Then she accomplishes miracles of thinking, farsightedness, constancy in order to do something nasty. Like she rises to the occasion when she wants to confound us. Like this is, and so like this prostitution thing is like imagine a man, he gets caught with his wife like in a Korean massage parlor or something, like say husband you think you're smarter than Tolstoy? Like who are you to tell me? Anyway, I just think this issue of what is and isn't cheating is actually going to be very profound. Like,
By the way, literally nobody was talking about that.
he brought it up.
I'm trying to figure out the nexus too.
You brought it up. You said about it, what's
No,
cheating.
no.
I should have come in with a quote.
Didn't you say what is cheating?
No.
Yes. Yes.
Well, so we were talking about. She's brought up the ethics of sex with a
But not
bot,
in the
and
context
he
of
said,
Is it
cheating.
cheating?
yeah, he said, "Is it cheating?" Yeah.
Well, I was trying
I
to
mean-
clarify. I think I was trying to clarify your question. Was that what you were asking?
No, not at all.
so-
Not
But why would it?
Tolstoy answered
Why
it
would it
for
be
you.
unethical?
It saves the
other
family.
than
because it is this thing now where these people are having like these relationships, like romantic, quote
well,
unquote.
why would that be unethical? Unless you
D-
consider it
d-
cheating.
No. Do the tech companies want to take on this responsibility?
Oh, I see. Okay.
That was the
That-
question.
Of
I mean,
what?
of letting people like get into like these like essentially like propagating like pornography, right? Like they're
ChatGPT is about to release its.
well,
adult-
that's what I was reading about. That's what.
Well,
I
in
was,
other words, letting people become sort of addicted to. That could fuck with people's heads if they're falling in
Exactly.
love with
that,
with-
and
with
that's
the bot.
already happening, but they're not having quote unquote sex
Right.
with these AI chatbots right now. Like the technology isn't doing that.
I would give anything to just be able to live for a few hundred years and just see how this all turns out. It's just such interesting.
Well, you brought up on a previous podcast, that's the one technology that we're not seeing is great increases in lifespan.
yes.
We're seeing all these other technologies just exploding, but we're still dying.
I don't think that's true. There are a lot
You're
of people.
contrarian.
There are a lot of people who think if you live disease free for another 10 years, you'll make it to 100.
Well, people.
No, I said we haven't seen it yet.
We haven't
yes,
seen
yes,
it
of
yet,
course.
yeah.
yeah, but you said you need a couple hundred years to get there, and I'm saying
No, I said I just wish I could. No, I didn't say that. I said I wish I could live for a few hundred years.
Oh,
Yeah.
What can we just tease out?
This
Tolstoy
was
stuff?
actually my.
By the way, we were talking about cheating. Do you have a wife
But,
and kids?
well, hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Listen, this was my observation. It was interesting to me that
how is whether me having a wife and kids connected to cheating?
we're gonna end. We're gonna end with your family. We're gonna end with your personal life.
What's interesting is there are a lot of like
Wait, hold on.
you know.
Hold on.
No, I don't.
Just hold on one second.
connection
I
from place to
don't
place, it
want to
just-
leave
It
this.
seems
Jefferson,
difficult to figure out how these things connect.
Adams, I think Madison. They all lived to be quite old. Maybe you could look that up. They all lived
80-ish, 80 plus.
and
80
it was
plus,
interesting to me that so many people hundreds of years ago lived into their 80s. Basically, what any of us would agree was basically our life expectancy today, despite all the advancements, all the therapies, everything. People are living about the same length of time if you can get them past the first couple of years of life, right?
Well, the what do they call them? The blue zones where people are living, to 100. And no, I do think one of the areas that I think is really exciting is people that are focused on longevity. And I do think there are modifications we're aware of today that you can modify your behavior.
I mean, by psoriasis, they can't fucking get rid of it.
I do think
I think that would be an easy one.
The heartbreak of psoriasis.
I do think
Well, it's obviously going to happen eventually. Eventually, I think they're going to completely crack the code for aging, and they'll figure out why it degrades like a Xerox, and then you'll live forever unless you have a terrible accident.
I don't think you're going to live forever, but I do think
Why not?
Well, you will have an accident eventually. Even
Well, yeah, I mean, except for that.
I mean, I guess it can.
and the meteor will hit
But
eventually.
who wants to live? I mean, would you really want?
I do. I do.
But as
Well,
decrepit or as you are now, like, would you want to live?
As he was 20 years ago. I feel.
I'm fine with now.
Okay, but what about at 93? Would you want to live like as you are going to be at 93?
Well, I don't know how I'll be at 93,
Well,
but as long as I'm still living a gratifying life and enjoying myself, yes, of course, I'd want to continue that life forever.
But as young as younger, the better, right?
Yes, but still, that's not. Yes, younger the better. I'm totally fine with what I am now.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that cells reproduce and they degrade for whatever reason, and what do they call the
Telomeres or whatever?
telomeres? But at some point they will undo that, and they'll make perfect copies, or even rewind it. They'll be able to, go roll back the aging.
Okay.
Well, they would need to roll back the aging, right? Because the number of cells you have on your brain is less than what it was. So we would need to rewind.
But whatever we need to do,
Yeah.
they will figure out. It's all possible, and they'll figure out how to do it. And then sky's the limit. Just be very careful.
Can you elaborate on your position
but
on that
then-
Tolstoy quote?
I'm against it, of course.
the problem is if we get to a point where you're living 300 years, unless you have an accident, people will be more risk averse because there's more to lose. Now all of a sudden, I'm not leaving the house because I don't want to lose out on the 200 years that I could possibly. I mean, that's a real
You live that way now, Dan.
that's a real consideration. Well, it'd be more pronounced.
I just
But the reason I wanted to ask about his family is because I don't have a wife and kids, but you expect that. I'm a comedian. You expect comedians to be mental cases and have issues of that nature. But you're like a regular person. So I'd imagine you, but I don't see a wedding ring, so I don't know. And
I have a girlfriend.
Okay.
I'm not married and I don't have kids.
She
Yeah.
human?
well, it seems unusual to me. And he's obviously a very
Were you
eligible.
ever married? Ever married?
No, I've not been married.
I mean, you're a very eligible bachelor. You're a very interesting guy, a very accomplished guy.
A lot of money.
He's got some dough. The women must be coming at you.
I thought the topic here was.
Well, that was the topic. Yes, is the operative word. Though I think that's interesting. They must be coming at you all over the place. They're coming after me, and I got nothing. I fucking on Facebook. I'm getting all this action on Facebook. What's it called? Facebook dating or whatever?
marketplace.
Whatever. No, not like, no. I mean, I'm getting a lot of fucking action on that. And
Well, I wish you would take some of those women up on their offers. I think it would be good for you. And I want to tell you something else.
Yeah.
Your skin stuff is all like internal anxiety.
probably a lot of it is.
100%.
A lot of it is. Yeah.
I have a really good dermatologist. I have a really good dermatologist who does energy work. Who I can.
All right.
It's
Have you tried crystals? Crystals work.
I'm not kidding.
It's
He's amazing.
interesting. the topic-
Steve Jobs had a good doctor.
Yeah,
Steve
we're all-
Jobs had a good doctor. For his pancreatic cancer, he was very good.
You're making jokes, but it's,
Of course. Shut up.
it's true that all anything skin related is coming from the inside.
Yes, except that my kids have like their eczema at like 9 months old. So that was fucking anxiety.
Well, no, not necessarily anxiety, but it could
shut up,
be
Harry.
no, it could.
Let me
be,
quote Tolstoy.
It could be a reaction to something that they were eating, or you're making that face. Look it up. Ask your friend.
It's in my side of the. My mother had it. I actually had it a little bit. But I don't have my kids have it. It's in family. It runs in
I'm
families.
telling you.
Oh God.
Well, it's both. That's it is.
It's not both. It's exacerbated by stress, like a lot of things are, but it's not caused by stress.
Mm-hmm.
You could give someone who doesn't have it all the stress in the world, they will not get eczema.
Yes, it's what they call the. I forgot that there's a word for that with the stress and the. Anyway.
The chicken and the egg.
No, it's like the diathesis stress, something like that. Anyway, whatever.
AI will make many breakthroughs, but it will not figure out why Periel will believe anything. She literally, any nonsensical thing, as long as it's in a meme, she will believe. You saw that in a meme, right?
No, I have an excellent doctor on the Upper East
When you
Side.
say doctor, what do you mean by that?
I mean a
Medical-
board-certified dermatologist, and if you have any skin issues, he's incredible.
Not a chiropractor.
Not a chiropractor.
Anyway, let's say, are we?
Yeah, we're
that
done. We're
time's
done.
up?
Okay, we're going to wrap it up.
What is that?
This was, I thought, a very good episode.
Very
I hope,
good.
I hope
Very
it,
good. Thank God we didn't talk about anything that people are interested in, like Iran or anything like that.
What is that?
We talked about Iran. We talked about
Someone's
how
phone alarm?
Yeah, this would be a nice outlet for people, huh?
Is that your phone?
Oh no, that's my
Alarm?
that's my alarm to put money in the meter.
Oh, well, perfect time.
Hey, I should. Don't you have an app for that?
Well, you know, in New York, you grab a ticket for 2 hours,
And you can't do it by phone.
and then on your phone you do the subsequent next 2 hours.
All right. Anyway, see, I think this was a good episode.
Thank you, Andrew.
I'm sorry you don't remember Dan. I went to law school too, by the way.
Yeah, but we didn't like. I think you were a different year, and maybe we were different classes. But I just remember Stacy.
Did you enjoy law school?
No,
I liked it very much.
Yeah.
Why didn't you like it? Even first year you didn't like?
I mean, I think life is about choices, and law school's for people that want to be lawyers. And if you don't want to be a lawyer, you're wasting your time.
I liked it.
None of us,
I
none
never
of us are
practiced.
lawyers.
I never practiced. But
Yeah.
All right.
All right, Andrew Weinreich, everybody. He's on the Forbes 250 greatest
I thought you
living
said
innovators.
250 or 450?
250 greatest living innovators. He made the list. I don't know if he's not in the top 100, but he's still pretty good.
Still impressive.
Still very impressive.
175.
175 is
Wow.
and that's based on your work in social networking, I guess, mostly.
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Who's the last?
Who invented
You,
swipe?
you know, the last person on that list who should be way ahead of me is Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
She's 250.
That's hilarious.
Who invented swiping for if you like them and left for not? Is there one person that invented that? Because that's a pretty big innovation.
Do you know, before, you're talking about Tinder, right?
Yeah, Tinder. And,
Before Tinder, there was a company called Hot or Not. And I think
that was Zuckerberg, I think. Right?
No, that was, I think his name was, I can't remember his name, James Wong. I can't remember his name. But I mean, this idea that nothing's new, Tinder was not the first one to do, you know, I'm interested or I'm not. It happened to be the form factor of left, right was them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really sorry about that alarm. That's
Don't worry about
pretty
it.
annoying.
You know what
It
was amazing before we go? Like, we've seen so many innovations now. Like, I've been doing word processing since a sophomore in high school. We had my first printer was a thing that fit over an IBM Selectric keyboard with little fingers, like little buttons, and it would type for you.
Hung, that was his name. That one.
Hung. Oh, he was.
that-
Yep.
That's it.
But the first time you could pinch zoom or
Yep.
whatever, crop or whatever to call it, that was an amazing innovation. That just really hit hard. Like, holy shit, right? For whatever reason. We'd seen so many other things that didn't hit us that hard, but that was huge to me. Anyway.
Okay. All right. Andrew Weinreich, everybody. He doesn't have a book to plug, so we'll just say thank
Maybe
you.
I'll
for
write one. But
Well, thank you for coming. You should
Thank you very
probably
much,
write
yeah.
one. And food half off at the Olive Tree Cafe downstairs if you're interested.
You can have it full off.
thank you. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I thought you remembered.
No, I remembered him.